clearly there's been a direct correlation. I mean, to the month that we turn TV on, it's just made everything a lot more successful. TV is its own lead source, but it's also that branding channel that just makes you the market authority. The month that TV got turned on, 1.5 more appointments. Still, we're closing right now 1 in 7.3 TV leads to a contract. And so, again, before and after TV, right now we're 2.8 leads from TV result in an appointment. So that means we go out, we make an offer to the homeowner. We also get people saying, hey, I saw your commercial, I want to be added to your buyers list. And it gives you authority on that side too, because
All right, welcome to another case study. If you are here, you're probably wanting to get more leads, which means you're probably wanting to get more deals. So today we're going to talk with Ryan Weimer and talk about how he has utilized TV to increase his brand awareness, to increase a lot of different things. We're going to talk about the power of TV, how it's increased his authority, helped his other forms of marketing, and a lot of other great things. So thanks for joining us. Ryan, appreciate you coming on and spending time with us. How are you doing today?
I'm doing wonderful, Tony. Thanks for having me on. I can't wait to share some value with the audience and just talk about the good, bad, and the ugly.
Yeah, Ryan's on vacation right now, giving his time. I did not pay him. I did not. He's devoting his time to helping other investors as well, just because he's seen the power of TV. So thanks again, Ryan, for jumping in here. So first of all, for those of you don't know me, I'm not just the host. I've been investing for 24 years now. I've been doing TV myself for 13 years, and it's been the number one lead channel since then. It's created a lot of different opportunities for my business, and that's why I'm doing these interviews, is to show how we've helped other investors to take on TV and harness the power of TV. So now I'm on a mission to help other real estate investors to work smarter. And one of those things is to add TV commercials to the mix. So, Ryan, let's dive in. What did marketing look like before TV? And then once you turned on TV, tell us what happened after you started TV.
So yeah, we saw kind of a rising tide lifts all channels situation with TV. So obviously, um, it's not just the people that call in and say, "Hey, I saw your TV commercial and I want to sell my house." We saw actually a 40% reduction in cost per lead on PPC, and we got 1.5 more appointments from our PPC and web SEO leads the month that TV got turned on. 1.5 more appointments. So it is truly like, yes, TV is its own lead source, but it's also that branding channel that just makes you the market authority. And I'll be honest, Tony, I had some limiting beliefs on if TV was right for us because I'm not actually in our market in Boise, Idaho. We started the company virtually about 6 years ago. And so I'm on vacation now, but I live in London, England. And so I was like, do I really want to be the person in the commercial when I'm not even in Boise? Um, I had to kind of get over that and understand, hey, if you guys are out just providing value and your team is abiding by the core values that you set forth and you have the right leadership in place, it is absolutely just a massive lever for brand awareness. And um, I'll admit, I actually I didn't really know what to expect, what it would do to our other inbound sources, but clearly there's been a direct correlation. I mean, to the month that we turn TV on, it's just made everything a lot more successful.
All right, cool. So that's a good point. So I'm not in my market. I haven't been in my market in 10 years. So I used to do appointments in person when I first started TV, and people were like, oh, you're in my living room, and all that kind of stuff. There are some people that invest remotely, and they're like, well, if I'm on TV and I'm not on the appointment, or maybe they have acquisition reps, they're like, should I
Yeah.
put my acquisitions person in there? So you haven't seen any issue with people not saying, you haven't had any issue with people saying, oh, Ryan's on the commercial. Why is he not here? Right. I'm guessing your acquisitions team has still seen the credibility even with you not there.
100%. I mean, obviously, if you are the person going on the appointments and you're in the commercial, you're going to close at a slightly higher rate, but still, we're closing right now 1 in 7.3 TB leads to a contract. And I'm not going on any seller appointments. That's just my team. So no, we don't hear any of that in the calls that come in. Hey, why is it not Ryan? Why is it not him? Um, it's just that channel that makes you credible in people's eyes. There's all these, you hear about all these other scammers and people, stealing granny's equity and uh, all these lowball cash investors that you hear about all the time that just piss people off because they send out a ton of offers. They play a volume game. They don't actually help the homeowner. When you're on TV, like you are putting yourself out there, right? You are showing them that you are a credible brand. And again, like you have to rely on the core values of your company and your sales team to really like get the most out of this channel. But um, it just gives you that kind of celebrity status when you walk into a home that there is already inherent trust and credibility there. It's not like a cold text or a cold call or even some of the other inbound channels like PPC where they're filling out five or six other web forms at the same time as yours. It's just like, it is that celebrity status and it gets you way to the close before you even walk through the door.
So 1 in 7.3. So if you were to compare it to other channels, let's say cold calling and texting, it's like 50 to 100 probably leads to get a deal.
Yep.
For other lead channels, it's, potentially 10, 15, 20 leads to get a deal. TV, I'm guessing that's your best conversion, 7.3. What do you attribute that to? So I know for us, when we do TV, sometimes a lot of the time we're the only one called. So it's easier to close that deal because they're not calling out five other people, right? Like they would with PPC or some other methods.
Got it.
Um, for us, I feel like the celebrity status, right? So, rather than again calling five people, they call us, and if we can give them a reasonable price and we're within range, then they're going to go with us as opposed to shopping around. What do you think it is for you? Why do you think it's such a low number, 7.3 leads to get a deal?
Well, let me give you some additional statistics there too to kind of drive home the point. So, we've been using TV for roughly 6 months now. I think maybe a few less, maybe like 5 months. Um, so the statistics I have pulled up here, we have lead to signed contract in the last 6 months, and then we have lead to signed contract in the last 12 months. So this gives me a very clear picture of like not only how did TV do recently, but I can compare the 12 months to the 6 months to see how our other inbound channels changed once we brought on TV. So we had 1 in 13.6, so let's call it 1 in 14 PPC leads to a contract prior to TV, and now we're at 9.6. We're at 10. So it's four less leads now on PPC to get a signed contract than before TV. And if you're not measuring this stuff, you would have no idea that it's actually affecting your other channels and how it's doing that. Um, just the other day, I saw a post in one of our masterminds like, hey, we're thinking about changing our TV strategy or even decreasing the budget because the direct lead attribution of we're just measuring the people that call the TV number to call in, and hey, the ROI isn't where we want it to be. Well, you're not. That's just like a fraction of the power of TV. You're not showing the full um, benefits of that. And so I think it's just how many different touch points can you get in front of people? Some sellers are going to respond to mail, right? Some sellers are going to respond to Googling your name and filling out a form. Some are going to respond to a cold call. Some are going to be watching TV and see your ad pop up. And it's a combination of all these. Some are going to respond to a Facebook ad. The more presence that you have in people's minds, when that time comes up, they're like, oh, what was that? I do need to finally sell my house. What was that company? The one that they've got the jingle and they're on TV and oh yeah, Offer Now Idaho. Yeah, let me give them a call. And they might Google Offer Now Idaho in a branded search, click on your PPC ad, but it's because your commercial showed up yesterday and you were fresh in their mind. And so these are all things like you really have to zoom out and view this as a branding piece more than like a direct marketing channel attribution, if that makes sense.
Want to get motivated sellers that nobody knows about? Introducing 10x TV. If you want to create credibility in your market, find deals that nobody else knows about, and crush your competition, you need to check into TV commercials. It is the new buzz in the real estate investing industry since we introduced it several years ago. I've been using TV commercials myself for the last 12 years and it's absolutely crushed it. So if you want to learn how to get on TV and to do something that little to no people are doing right now, go to claimmymarket.com. Again, that's claimmymarket.com. We usually only work with 2 investors per market, so if you're interested, reach out to us and book a call to see if you can claim your market before anybody else does. Now back to the show. Yeah, that does frustrate me sometimes when people are like, well, I'm only getting a 3 times return from TV, which is a little bit on the low end, but you're not attributing like all the things it's doing for your brand. And one thing I want to point out, well, actually, there's 2 things real quick. One is you've got your numbers dialed in, right? I love that. I love when entrepreneurs have their numbers dialed in. So that is number one, is knowing what your numbers are and being accurate with your numbers. And then the other thing you mentioned, I I knew that TV helped other lead channels. I didn't think about it helping conversion rates of other lead channels. I was thinking more just ROI, or like with postcards, for instance, more people calling because they see the brand. I didn't even think about how many less leads it could take potentially on another lead channel to get a deal. So that's a really good point. I really, really like that. And that's something that we need to make sure we watch for with some of our other clients. So
Yeah,
do you
Tony,
want
just to give you some dollar figures there to make it really tangible, a PPC lead for us right now costs about $400. So if I'm getting 4 less to sign a PPC contract than I was before and after TV, right? That is what? That's $1,600 per contract in savings that I've gotten from TV, every single contract. And we're signing anywhere from 3 to 4 PPC contracts a month. So you're talking like in excess of $5,000 every single month in savings that I get from PPC, um, before and after TV. And like we can actually see that and measure that.
Yeah, that's amazing. What other numbers would you like to share? Any other stats that you think would be good for the audience to know about?
Yeah, I think this might be a hot button, but I know ROI is important to measure, but I do think it can be a vanity metric, especially if your sample size is small. Like if you're doing less than 100 contracts a year, or even less than 150 or 200, you're just like you could have a 150K deal and your ROI will look amazing. It just doesn't actually tell the full story of if that marketing channel is working or not. And so we actually like to measure lead to appointment set and lead to signed contract. Those are our ROI is kind of like the lag measure of success. But if we think about if a marketing channel is viable, is it delivering you motivated sellers that you can set an appointment with? And so again, before and after TV, right now we're 2.8 leads from TV result in an appointment. So that means we go out, we make an offer to the homeowner. PPC right now, it's 3. So we're slightly less. But here's the kicker. Before we brought on TV, we were at 3.5 leads to appointment on PPC, and now we're at 3. So it's taking us that much less leads to actually get a scheduled appointment. Now, why is that? Well, it's because our branded searches have gone up way higher because people see our commercial, they Google Offer Now Idaho, they click on our website because we run PPC, and then they fill out a web form organically, right? And then they, because we have that inherent credibility, it just takes us less leads to schedule an appointment and get in front of them. So that is the thing that if you're just starting out at this or you're thinking about bringing TV on, ROI is great, sexy. Of course, you need to make money, but is the lead that you're getting from the channel, are you able to convert that to an appointment? That is the number one thing that you need to be measuring in terms of viability.
Amazing. So tell us about your return. So obviously, like you said, return on investment is key. Can you give us some stats behind that?
Yeah, yeah, we're at a 4.5 right now on just TV. So not across all the other benefits that TV has and how it's affecting our other channels, but right now it's a 4.5 on TV.
And
That's
that
just
does,
with deals we've already closed. That doesn't include ones we have in the pipeline that are set to close or future deals.
what do you think that's going to bump it up to? Because 4.5 by itself, with what you're telling me, especially in a 6 month period, because some people, like I tell people, like give it 6 months. I mean, on obviously 12 months is like a better, set to look at. Like, is it really going to work? Sometimes people know within the first month if it's going to work. Some people it takes 6 months. I tell people like give it 6 months because in 6 months it's going to perform if you give it that time frame. So first of all, how long did it take you to start seeing an ROI? And then first answer, where do you think that ROI will be 4.5 once you close the deals that you've spent the money, you've already paid the money. So the money that comes in, you'll need to come and bring it back to where you've spent it. Where do you think that ROI will end up approximately?
I think we'll be right around a five, right around a five. Now, as you mentioned, 12 months, a lot of that has to do with seasonality. Our market is very seasonal. So we definitely do our bigger deals in typically in Q1 and Q2 of the year. And so, um, that to have a full picture of like how things are going to go, it's definitely if you're in that kind of seasonal market, you need to have at least 12 months. But I would say it's projecting right now around a five. Um, but I'll tell you what I've learned is ROI has a lot more to do with your sales team and their ability than any single marketing channel. And that's why when we look at the effectiveness of a marketing channel, we like to look at lead to appointment versus ROI because ROI is just so like it's really dependent on how good is your sales team negotiating and also what kind of position strategies do you have? Are you a one-trick pony and you're just cash offers, or do you have a secondary or even a third option for them, like an innovation, like a creative finance, where you can monetize more of these leads? So it's not all apples to apples when we talk about ROI. I just wanted to give that context.
Yeah, totally. Awesome. So this is good stuff so far. I've got a lot more questions for Ryan. If you guys have heard enough and this resonates with you and you want to become the authority in your market and do something that 99% of investors are not doing, go to 10xtv.co to apply and see if your market's available. And we will also do a marketing audit for free for you. So if you go to 10xtv.co, you apply and book a call with us, we will do a free marketing audit for you. So let's talk about again the impact TV has had in other ways. So obviously, authority, obviously, it's helped your other lead channels. What other things have you seen because you are now on TV?
Um, Man, if I couldn't really put a finger on this, but swagger, it gives our sales team confidence when they know we're a market authority and they see like one of our sales guys, he was getting his oil change the other day and he sent us a picture. Our commercial was playing in the waiting room of a mechanic shop, right? And I think that makes him proud to be a part of a company that's doing that. And anybody else in the waiting room, you could be like, hey, look, that's us. Do you know anybody that's looking to sell your house, right? I think it just um gives them the confidence that we're a legit company. It also shows significant investment by the company that, hey, we want you guys to make a lot of commissions. We want you guys to make a lot of money. Look, we're spending money in these areas. And so I think that's kind of the thing that doesn't get talked about enough is what it does to your sales team's confidence because confident salespeople are not the commission breath salespeople. They're not trying to work one over and hey, I win, you lose, and afraid in negotiations. They're cool, they're smooth. Hey, I don't need this deal. I'm here to provide you value. You can work with us or not. Both are okay. But then when we have the brand power, it just makes that so much less salesy, so much more relaxed, and they can really um, work from that standpoint of strength in the sales process and not this like scarcity.
Yeah, I've talked to a lot of clients that have had success on TV. You're bringing up some points that not anybody else has ever brought up, and that's, what you mentioned earlier, but then the swagger. So that could be potentially one of the reasons that your other marketing channels are doing better is because they have more confidence. What's
Yeah.
interesting is do you do branded shirts? Do you have your team walk around with the brand on their shirts?
Yes.
So we do that as well. And we have a jingle on our commercial. And when our maintenance guys go in to pay for gas or are going to get a drink, people start singing the jingle to them, right? And I didn't even think about them being proud of being a part of that. Because if they're getting recognized, even though they're not on TV, they're seeing our brand and singing the jingle or being like, oh, I've seen your company on TV. That totally gives them confidence. I didn't even think about that. That's amazing.
100%. And what we're asking our salespeople to do all day long, right, is get rejected. So if they have
Totally.
that sense of belonging to something, believing in something, and it just gives you that extra layer of buy-in where you unlock that discretionary effort. I think that stuff really, really matters.
So how I think I asked it earlier, and I think I'll circle back around to it. How long did it take you guys to start doing deals?
Just with TV.
Yeah, when you turned on TV, so sometimes lead channels will take 3 to 6 months to really start cranking. When you guys knew that it was working, like when was that point, whether you had contracts or not? And then like, tell us about your first, let's say 30 days. How did that go?
So we actually saw it affect our other lead channels, like PPC and web SEO first. And then I think we got our first contract around like day 40, 45. Ironically, the first call that we got was an appointment from TV, but we weren't able to convert that one. So I think it was right around day 40 or 45 that we got our first contract from TV, but we saw the lift in the other channels immediately because our cost per lead was coming down because we had so many more branded searches. People were Googling Offer Now Idaho at like double the rate than they were before, and we know that that's because of the commercial. That didn't just happen by chance.
Yeah. And when did you see that people looked at you more as the authority, whether it's the sellers, agents, other investors? Like, how long did it take for that impact for you to see that impact?
Probably around month four. It has to play a certain amount of times. People have to see it. One thing we also did to help us out is we started giving each of our salespeople $20 per five-star Google review that they could get from sellers, or even people that they had worked with in the past. Anybody and everybody that we're helping, realtors, title agents, contractors we're employing for our flips, because we knew with that with the TV commercial, people will Google you and they'll look at your rating, right? And so I think if you have 10 five-star reviews or no five-star reviews, or you have like even less than 100 reviews, that is absolutely something you should do. So we would gladly pay each of our reps $20 per five-star Google review that they can get. We even put a QR code on the back of our business cards every time they have a positive experience with the seller, even if we're not the right fit and we don't sign a contract. Hey, could you take 30 seconds to give me a five-star Google review? Boom, they can scan that QR code. And you have to do these ancillary things so that when people see the commercial, that it just gives you a higher chance to convert because they're like, oh, dang, they've got almost, 150, 200 five-star reviews. They have to be legit. It's just that secondary punch that you give them of like, okay, these guys stand out versus everybody else.
Yep. Cool. So, agents, other investors. So obviously sellers are going to look at you differently. Your team, little swagger, they kind of look at you a little bit differently and maybe a little bit more respect, that kind of thing. What have you seen from like agents, title companies, contractors, like other third party people?
Yeah, I'll get random messages like, "Hey, I saw your commercial." It's actually helped surprisingly on the buyer side. So when we dispo properties, we have a lot of people that see our commercials. Every buyer, and I know you, Tony, because you've bought a lot and sold a lot of properties as well. we've all bought from a wholesaler or attempted to buy from a wholesaler and had a bad experience. Maybe they didn't have it under contract. Maybe the seller wasn't totally on board, or they didn't deposit earnest money. Maybe they had some verbiage in their contract that didn't make sense and it made the deal confusing, or the deal completely fell out altogether. And so with buyers, we also get people saying, "Hey, I saw your commercial. I want to be added to your buyers list." And it gives you authority on that side too, because we used to ask, for example, we used to ask for $5,000 non-refundable earnest money from our buyers when we're wholesaling or dispoing a deal. Now we upped that to $10,000 non-refundable earnest money, and we can ask for, hey, make sure you get that in by noon tomorrow in our assignment agreement. It just gives you more leverage and more authority because you're that trusted source. It's not just on the sales side that it helps, it's also on the dispo side.
So now a third point you brought up that I don't know that I've heard from anybody else, in the fact that usually when people say investors respect us more, they're saying investors are bringing us more deals or giving us the first shot. But when you dispo deals, for them to respect you more and probably take your pricing more credible, your repair estimates, if you give repair estimates, basically anything you tell them, they're probably going to believe you a little bit more compared to a wholesaler that they don't know, that is not on TV and not,
Yeah.
spending that kind of money. Interesting. I like that.
Yeah.
Actually, speaking of money, so a lot of people think you don't have to mention what your ad spend is, but can you compare it to other, I guess, other lead sources? Some people will be like, oh, well, TV, I bet it's really expensive. And really, it's usually not as expensive as they would think. And then, yeah, there's just, I guess that's one of the reasons that there's not as many people on TV, is because they think it's really expensive. But when they compare it to other lead channels, usually it's not that much different. I don't know what you have to say on that. How do you feel like the ad spend is compared to, other lead sources?
Yeah, it definitely is on the more expensive end. But for us, it's actually our third most expensive channel. So we spend more on PPC and more in mail now. We just started mail about a month ago. We had tried it 3 years ago and just not at the same volume, and finally decided, hey, let's start it again. But we spend more in mail and in PPC now than we do in TV. So it's not something that's breaking the bank for us. And yeah, if it's your third highest marketing budget per month, but it's also the least amount of leads to get a contract, that's a pretty winning combination.
I'm guessing you're branding your direct mail with your TV?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. All of everything says as seen on TV. It has our, Google review rating. It's all about the kind of the trifecta: PPC, direct mail, TV. All of these channels working together gives you that lift that a lot of times it's hard to measure. I'm really proud that we were able to capture like before and after TV, because I and just in talking with other people, I just had no idea. It's one of the harder things, like you can't really measure. I know some people are like, well, when I get a PPC form and it says they saw our TV commercial, how much do I attribute the ROI to PPC versus TV? And everybody has a differing view on that. But at the end of the day, like, you're making more money. So let's just let's just leave it at that. Like, it is absolutely complementing that. And although it's difficult to measure and quantify, um, yeah, I think it's a no-brainer. Now, what I will tell you, Tony, is we did try TV a couple years ago, 3 years ago in 2022. And I wouldn't say we had a bad experience, but the reason that we weren't successful, I don't think it really had anything to do with the channel necessarily, but our sales team just wasn't ready for it. We just didn't have the caliber of people, the caliber of onboarding and training that we do now. And I think you have to really have at least one really solid closer, and you'll make a ton of money from it. So whether that's you because you're a solopreneur and you're going on the appointments, or whether it's a really good salesperson, you at least have to have that one top closer, and we didn't at that time. And I think that was a lot of the reason why um, it just didn't work for us like we wanted it to.
That's a good point. There are people that are like, well, something doesn't work in my market, whether it's postcards or,
Yeah,
TV, radio, whatever. Almost every lead channel works. It's just you have to have the team to close the deals. So that is a good point. You got to be dialed in. You got to be tracking your numbers, and almost every lead channel works as long as you're spending enough money, you're giving enough time, and you're doing it the right way, right?
yeah,
Wrapping up here, a couple more questions. Um, there was something on what was it you were talking about before? Um, well, let's kind of start wrapping up with this.
yeah.
If someone is looking to do TV, because we've had a lot of people reach out for TV and they're skeptical, which I understand. Um, Looking back at, I guess, when you thought about TV and just talking to any other investor that's in your where you were before when you were thinking about TV, what would you tell an investor that's thinking about TV, that's already a real estate investor, that's already closing deals, that's already spending money on marketing? What would your advice be for them?
I would say just if you look at the top real estate companies around the country that are direct to seller, they all do TV and they all have gigantic budgets with TV. So that's first and foremost is the companies that are making the most amount of money and are the most successful are doing it. So there's a reason why. Um, Secondly, I would say, what is your cash position? Because if you think that any channel that you add or bring on is going to produce results within a month or two, you are not setting yourself up for success and you might not be ready for it. Now, I think 6 months is really a minimum. Uh, I would love it to be able to measure a channel in a year, right? And so that might mean you need to budget 3 to 6 months of cash reserves to be able to pay for that channel before you start seeing a positive ROI. So marketing, just like employees or anything else in your business, is an investment, and it's something you have to just make sure you have the cash flow for. Um, and then third, just you said this before, but every marketing channel works. If you think that you're a special snowflake and something doesn't work in your market, show me the data. And number three, lastly, like the problem isn't the marketing channel, it's you. If it works for other people, the problem is you. And so you just need to figure out what that is, fix that, and then now you're ready for it. So I wouldn't I wouldn't get down on yourself like, hey, I'm way far behind and measuring myself against these top companies. This is all a part of business, right? You go through growing pains, you go through failures, you take a step back to take two forward. But it absolutely works. The best people do it for a reason.
Awesome. Well, first of all, I want to commend you for having the business that you do. Obviously, business is not easy. It hasn't always been this way. I think you've shared this publicly on, I think the Disruptors podcast. You had some hiccups a few years ago. I think it was 5 or 6 years ago, I had some major hiccups that I had to get over. Business is not easy, but I love the way you run your business. I can tell you know your numbers. I can tell you're dialed in. I see your stuff on Facebook, the stuff you do with your team. I can tell you care about your team. If anybody is wants to look up to a business, I mean, look at what Ryan's doing. He's doing a lot of good stuff. That's one of the reasons that I love this business is we get to work with people like you that are doing great things and just be connected to guys like you. So appreciate everything that you do for us in our community, and everything you stand for with when it comes to real estate investing.
I appreciate it, Tony. Same goes to you. And I mean this with 100% sincerity. You were absolutely the reason that we brought TV back on again and gave it another try. And I couldn't be happier with the results, honestly. Um, I have an engineer background. I'm a mechanical engineer, so it's impossible for me to wing stuff. I have to be very calculated about how I do them. I to some extent it makes us move a little slower than we'd like to, but um, since Tony and I had our first call together, the amount of transparency that I experienced was completely different than other TV companies that we had worked with or seen from. There's there's so much power and confidence from my standpoint that comes from that transparency. And I really appreciate it. You run your business the right way. And I can't wait to see as we increase the budget here in the future and what TV has in store for us.
Cool. I love hearing that. I feel like I've got multiple businesses, and that's one of the things that I struggled with in my early years was creating a really good team. And through a lot of trial and error and just lessons, I've figured out how to spot A players. I'm sure you're the same way, where it's like, man, why did I hire those people in the past? Why did I do business with people in the past? And all of a sudden, your standards get higher. And that's what has happened with me throughout the years. And, Drew and Heather that handle all of our clients. Noah, like I just feel like I have the best team on board that I can that we can help all of our clients because we're working with a lot of clients. We're dealing with a lot of ad spend. And we take it seriously because this is people's livelihoods, right? I mean, when people are spending money on marketing, it's not just, hey, here's another client. It's like people are trusting us with their money. They're putting like some of it, it's all of their money. Like every single dollar they're putting into the business, they're putting it back so that they can bring money back to pay themselves to provide money for their family. And some service providers just don't understand that and they don't take it seriously and they just kind of think of clients as another number. So I appreciate you saying that and look forward to seeing how TV performs for you throughout the years. I'm in year 13 right now. So just imagine if you would have started TV, many years ago and actually had an acquisitions person, maybe that was able to handle those a little bit better, and then what it will look like 5 or 10 years down the road as TV continues to perform. So, all right, any last words
100%.
before we wrap up?
No, I'm excited to see what how TV affects direct mail. And so maybe we'll do another one here in about 6 months or something when I have some data to share. But I'm excited to see what that looks like and kind of the feedback we get on those appointments.
Actually, I meant to mention that when you said you were going to start direct mail again. So we
Yeah,
we stopped direct mail. Gosh, I can't even remember what year it was, but we had been doing direct mail for years, and all of a sudden, it just became way too competitive.
yeah,
And then we started doing TV for clients, and they were like, we started doing this and that and branding our mail with TV. And at that point, I think we were just doing yellow postcards, like unbranded. And for years, again, it was working. And so we brought direct mail back and we started branding it with our TV commercial. And all of a sudden, it's performing. And so I'd love to hear the difference between direct mail before when you weren't doing TV and compared to with doing TV. Because just like you said, we had a lead that came in the other day. We put it under contract, and my team sends me an email every time they get a deal under contract. And lead source is like the second or third thing that they notate in that email. And it said TV, but they've seen us everywhere else because we're doing billboards, we're doing PPC, we're doing radio. So
totally.
anytime you can um, create an omnipresence with multiple channels, it really, really compounds. In fact, we were at the point where we decided to change our phone number. We're not even really tracking calls anymore because we know everything works. Now, when my
Yes.
team picks up the phone, we're going to be like, "Where did you hear about us?" But we decided to do one central phone number. That way, when they see all of our marketing, our phone number is the same, and then our team just has to do a good job of saying, where did you hear about us? Even though it kind of doesn't matter at this point, just because we have so many channels that even if, like for instance, Facebook and Google, we know are not a huge producer for us, but we know
Yeah.
it's just one extra thing that we do that could potentially help TV or help our other channels, right? So love talking about this stuff. I geek out on it and,
Yeah.
and could talk about it for days. So
No, and I mean just think about it from the seller's perspective, right? You're sitting at home, even if you're in a competitive market or a lot of people are doing mail, and you stack up 5 postcards, 10 postcards, you're collecting mail, you're getting uh, mail pieces from a bunch of different companies and offers, and then you get the one that says as seen on TV. You put that aside, and in the coming days or weeks, you see the commercial when it comes time to sell and you actually look at those and you're like, oh, these guys must be legit. They're on TV. That is what people think, and that's how they make decisions. That is why it works, right? You're going to stand out versus everybody else. And that's why it's such an amplifier channel. It's not just the benefits of TV. It is absolutely a rising tide.
I love this interview because again, you keep bringing things up that I didn't think about. So I knew that people called us because of our postcard more often, because people would tell us, we got a stack of postcards. We noticed you. You're on TV. These other guys aren't. We either called only you or called you first to see what you would say.
Yep,
But I didn't even think about, I don't know if you mentioned this or I just thought about it, but the chance of them keeping that postcard is probably a lot higher as opposed to someone random sending the postcard and they're like, oh, another company, right? So
totally.
interesting.
And,
Yeah.
and what we find, I'm sure you find this too, Tony, but the hottest direct mail leads and even some of the hottest leads in our entire business are people that have kept that mailer piece for a year, 2 years, 6 months, because they, in the back of their mind, they're in a stressful situation. They have some amount of pain going on, and that pain increases over time, and they save that for a rainy day because in the back of their head, they know, hey, that day is coming when I need to sell this property. And so if you are the one that's being kept, you're going to get those are sometimes the biggest deals in our company, or people that have just kept that for a while, or at least it was last time when we did it. So
Yep. Awesome. Cool. So if this resonates with you guys, I remember getting exposed to TV 13 years ago and taking the leap, right? It's one of the best things I've done in my business, right? So if you guys are doing deals, if you guys are already spending money on marketing, there's no reason to not be doing TV. So if you want to do again what 99% of investors are not doing and stick out and become the authority in your market and again be one of just a few people probably in your market doing TV, go to 10xtv.co, see if your market's available, apply, book a call, and we will show you what it will take to spend, what the ad spend will be in your market, where it reaches. We probably already have data in your market, so we can tell you probably some pretty good numbers and see if it could change your business as well. So, thanks again, Ryan, for being on here. And just one more thing. Let's get outside of
yeah.
TV real quick. What is one thing that you would instill in investors that, I mean, whether they're experienced or not, our guess, what is one of the biggest lessons you've learned that you would want people to know? Something you maybe overcome or something that you've just had a challenge on that you're like, man, I conquered this and I'd love for other people to know.
So we already touched on hiring. That is bar none the biggest thing. But beyond that, speed to lead. So live answer and speed to lead is king. If we don't get in touch, if we don't live answer, let's say we miss somebody calls our TV commercial and we miss a call, or somebody fills out a web form, and we get that notification. After 3 minutes go by, our ability to get in front of that homeowner to make an offer drop by 50% in 3 minutes. In 3 minutes. So think about that. So if there's one thing that I can tell you, regardless of TV, just with inbound channels in general, speed, speed, speed to lead. It is the top players obsess over this. How can we get it under a minute? How can we get it under 50 seconds? That, I mean, you're talking like the difference between like the somewhat successful and the elite people on inbound leads, it's speed to lead. So that's what I would leave them with.
Yeah, I've heard that study that for every minute that goes by and really every second that goes by, you're less likely to do business with that person. And I see that all the time when I call a new doctor's office or call for a painting company or something like that. If they answer and they book the appointment, like they are exponentially more likely to get my business than if I have to leave a message and then we play phone tag. In fact, I just left messages with like three attorneys.
Yeah.
I have an aviation problem, so I left a message with three attorneys, and I keep playing phone tag with these attorneys. And it's like, man, if they would have just answered their phone, whoever would have answered their phone probably would have gotten my business. So,
And
thanks again.
attorneys are the worst offenders. I totally agree with that. That's such a good example.
Oh yeah,
And
some of the highest paid people are so
I
bad at
know
business and sales, right?
you think of the opportunity cost for them too, what they charge hourly, the cost of not getting a customer like that is it's insane. And we live in a world, right, where I have pain now. I've mustered up the courage to to reach out to solve my problem, whatever that is, whatever industry it is. If the first person doesn't answer, I'm moving on to the next one and I'm going to call them, moving on to the next one and I'm going to call them. And so this exact same thing applies with real estate.
Yeah, that's our world these days is we want now.
Yep.
We can get I can want groceries or want food and have it delivered in, 15 to 20 minutes. So
Yep.
that's just kind of how we live these days. So all right, thanks again, Ryan. Again, if you guys want to apply 10xtv.co, go do it. It'll be the best thing that you've ever done in your business. And we'll see you on the next one.